Have you ever just, stopped to think about how fast new tech weaves itself into our lives? Feels like one day it's this cutting edge thing, and the next, well, you can't imagine your routine without it. And nowhere does that seem more obvious right now than in schools. Think about it. AI in the classroom. Felt like sci-fi just a blink ago. Now it's here. It's happening. Shaping education right now.
It's incredible, isn't it? The speed. And what's really fascinating as we dig into the material for this deep dive is that AI in schools, it isn't just another simple tool. No, it's bringing up this fundamental tension, almost a philosophical question, really, about learning itself. Is it this amazing assistant genuinely helping students learn better, achieve more? Or is it maybe a shortcut, a crutch even, that could, accidentally weaken real understanding or mind skill development?
Right, you've hit the nail on the head there. That's the core tension. And that's exactly what we're jumping into today. Our mission here is to unpack all these different views, straight from the source, students, teachers, the people right there on the front lines. We're going to explore how they see AI affecting grades, sure, but also ethics, and even these really big, sometimes overlooked questions they're raising about, well, brain development. By the end, you should have a much clearer, more nuanced picture of this whole complex situation because
Hey,
it
well,
is complex and changing fast.
absolutely. And to get that picture, we're using some really unique sources, really candid stuff. We've got direct insights, unfiltered thoughts from high school students, a whole range of them, different schools, different views. And we also have these critical observations from a high school English teacher, someone seeing it all unfold day in, day out. So we're not talking abstract theories here. These are the actual conversations, the real experiences, the worries playing out in classrooms, literally as we speak. It's like a direct window, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. A direct window. So let's start peeling back those layers. Let's look at that fundamental tension. On one side, we heard from students who really do see AI as this powerful ally, like a productivity partner. What are the specific ways they're using it as a learning tool? What benefits are they seeing right away?
Okay, so the first thing that pops up again and again is efficiency. Pure and simple. Students see it as a major help for just pulling up information quickly. Comprehensive info on, say, a research topic. Imagine you need to research Napoleon Bonaparte for history. Instead of spending ages sifting through websites, checking facts, taking notes, they can ask an AI for a structured overview. His life, key battles, reforms, legacy, boom. Instantly. Now, they say it's not about skipping the research.
Right. It's about speeding up that initial part.
Exactly. It cuts down on that tedious part. The information gathering grind. It saves time, saves effort. And that time, theoretically, can go towards higher level thinking, analysis, synthesis, forming their own arguments, or maybe digging deeper into something specific that catches their interest. It shifts the focus, you see, from just finding data to actually engaging with it.
That makes sense. Moving beyond just data collection and this idea of AI as a bridge, helping when other support isn't there, that came up too, right? What other ways are they finding it really valuable? Were there standout examples of how it's changing study habits, especially maybe, late at night or when the teacher's busy?
Oh, absolutely. That bridging gaps idea is huge for them. Many students talked about how useful it is for answering questions when teachers just aren't available. Late night homework sessions,
Yeah.
or maybe concept in class didn't quite land. Think about a tough math problem. You get stuck. Instead of waiting till tomorrow, you pop it into an AI. And often, you get a step-by-step breakdown, sometimes with explanations of the principles behind it.
Like an always-on tutor.
Precisely. A personalized tutor, ready 24/7, explaining things maybe in different ways until it clicks. A human teacher, no matter how dedicated, just can't offer that immediate round-the-clock one-on-one help to everyone. So this instant access to clarification, it can be massive for students who might otherwise just get stuck, lose steam, or get really frustrated.
And it's not just about answers, is it? They mentioned personalized study aids, too. How is AI tailoring things in a way that, say, a generic textbook chapter can't?
Yeah, that's another big one. The power to generate custom study guides or flashcards on practically any subject and tailored exactly to what they need, their learning style. Let's say you just finished a really dense chapter on, I don't know, cellular biology. You can ask AI to make flashcards focusing only on the terms you personally struggled with, or a study guide that mirrors the format your specific teacher uses for exams. Maybe it even suggests diagrams if you're a visual learner.
Wow, okay.
It's a huge step up from just using generic materials or spending hours making your own from scratch. It lets them zero in on the weak spots much more effectively. It builds a really customized path for studying.
That personalization does sound like a real game changer for how they study. And it seems to go into writing as well, which is really interesting. They're suggesting using AI for brainstorming, maybe getting sample intros or conclusions for essays. But where's the line there? It sounds like it could get tricky. How do they see the difference between using it as a spark and just letting it write the essay?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the students, the ones using it thoughtfully, seem very aware of that line.
Yeah.
They really stress not copying stuff directly.
Mm.
It's about using it as a starting point to spark their own original thought. Think about staring at a blank page. Writer's block, right? For an essay on some complex historical thing. They might ask AI for like 5 different ways to introduce the topic or a few potential thesis statements. It's not about getting the essay written for them. It's about getting over that first hurdle, breaking the block, finding a launch pad for their own ideas. It's like a really sophisticated prompt generator, offering ideas when maybe their own creativity feels a bit stuck.
I see. I see. So stimulating their thinking, not replacing it. And they also talked about it as an advanced grammar and wording assistant, like way beyond basic spell check, almost like a super editor. One student even made the comparison to Grammarly, asking, well, if using Grammarly to fix wording or spelling isn't cheating, why is AI different? What does that tell us?
It tells us they see these as refinement tools, not tools for generating the core substance. If Grammarly helps you polish your writing, fix grammar, maybe suggest a stronger word, they see AI as doing that, but maybe on a more advanced level. It can help a sentence structure, suggest different ways to phrase things for clarity or impact. It might even spot logical gaps in an argument. From their perspective, the goal is to improve the expression of their own thoughts, not to have the AI generate the thoughts in the first place. It's about making their own ideas sound as good as possible.
Right. Building on that refinement idea, one of the most innovative suggestions was using AI to actually grade or critique their work against a rubric. How would that even work? What's the value they see there?
This one's really interesting. The idea is a student could take the exact rubric their teacher is going to use for an assignment, feed it to the AI, along with their draft, and the AI could give immediate objective feedback based specifically on that rubric. It could point out, say, you need more detail here, or your argument isn't fully supported in this section, or even you missed the formatting requirements here.
Wow, instant feedback based on the actual grading criteria.
Exactly. And that's something teachers honestly often just don't have the time to provide with that kind of speed or detail, especially with large classes. So it allows students to do multiple drafts, get feedback, revise, get more feedback, all before they submit the final version. It creates this really powerful learning cycle, real-time insights for improving their own work.
And it's not just students finding value. We heard about educators, too, like John Gold, the history teacher. He uses AI for lesson planning or maybe summarizing long readings. How does that, a teacher using AI end up helping the students?
Well, it helps significantly by freeing up the teacher's most valuable resource, time. If AI can help John quickly summarize a dense historical article into key points for his class, or if it helps him generate different ideas for lesson plans, maybe catering to different learning styles, then he has more time and energy for the stuff that really matters, direct teaching, talking with students, maybe trying more creative approaches in the classroom. So it benefits both sides, you see. It shows AI can potentially make the whole educational system more efficient, more effective, not just for the student, but for the teacher too.
And there was this other perspective looking ahead. The idea that learning to use AI responsibly right now isn't just helpful, it's actually essential for their future. Why did they feel it was so critical?
Well, as one student put it quite plainly, AI is going to be a bigger and bigger part of our lives and careers, period, no matter what field you go into. Science, arts, business, healthcare, you name it, AI tools are becoming standard. So learning this stuff now isn't just about school grades. It's about being prepared for the future. It's about developing the literacy, the critical judgment needed to navigate a world where AI is just there, everywhere, learning to use it well and ethically now. They see that as a direct investment in their future success, both professionally and personally.
Okay, so we've definitely heard about the power, the real benefits students and teachers are seeing. It's undeniable. But of course, with that kind of power comes, well, responsibility. And as we found out, some pretty deep concerns too. While lots of students praised AI, they're also really aware of that slippery slope you mentioned, especially around cheating. How are they actually defining cheating with AI? What are the nuances they're wrestling with?
They are wrestling with it, and quite thoughtfully, I'd say. Most students are very clear. Using AI to write your whole essay, or just plugging in an assignment in another language and having AI translate it without you learning anything. That's cheating. Full stop. No gray area there for them. The crucial distinction, they keep saying, is how you use it. One student made a great analogy. It's like using a calculator to check your math work after you've done it yourself that confirms your thinking, versus just typing the problem into the calculator and copying the answer without understanding how you got there.
Right. The second way bypasses the learning entirely.
Exactly. That's the core worry. The learning process gets skipped. They see AI, ideally, as something that enhances their own effort, not something that replaces it.
That distinction is so important, and it connects to another big fear several students mention, that relying too much on AI could actually make them lose basic thinking skills. What specific abilities are they worried might, waste away if AI becomes too much of a crutch?
Yeah, that concern is really strong. They worry about losing the ability to think critically, to solve problems on their own, or even just perform basic tasks without some tech help. Imagine needing to research something and just not having the patience anymore, or the mental focus to read through different sources, weigh conflicting views, put it all together into your own argument. The fear is they might struggle with those fundamental things: deep reading, real comprehension, coming up with original ideas if AI always does the heavy lifting.
Like intellectual muscles getting weak from lack of use?
Kinda, yeah. Like relying on an exoskeleton maybe, and your own muscles atrophy. That's the worry for their core intellectual skills.
And it's not just about the ability to think, is it? It's also about the motivation. We heard this strong feeling that some students aren't using AI to learn better, they're just using it to, quote, get the work out of the way, to submit something, even if they didn't do it. What happens when the whole point of an assignment just becomes checking a box?
Well, it completely undermines why assignments exist in the first place, right? They're meant to help you learn, build skills, grow intellectually. If the main goal becomes just getting it done with the least possible effort, then that assignment changes. It's not a learning chance anymore. It's just a task to tick off. And that can kill intrinsic motivation. It can make learning feel like a chore you just want to outsource, not something valuable in itself. Plus, it messes with the integrity of the whole system. Grades stop meaning what they're supposed to mean. They don't reflect what the student actually knows or can do.
Which leads perfectly into this really striking analogy one student used. It really crystallizes the paradox. They compared AI to a painkiller. Initially, super helpful, right? Relieves a problem. But potentially addictive. Let's unpack that. What are the dangers of that painkiller addiction? What might it look like if a student crosses that line from using it as help to just relying on it completely?
That painkiller analogy is so sharp, isn't it? Think about it. A painkiller feels like a miracle when you're hurting. Instant relief. But we all know relying on it too much leads to dependency, addiction even. You start needing it for smaller and smaller discomforts. The student's worry here isn't just about laziness, it's deeper. Are we teaching students to avoid the natural discomfort of struggling with hard ideas? Because that struggle is often where real learning happens, where you build mental toughness. Signs of that takeover might be students turning in perfect-looking AI-generated homework.
But then bombing tests.
Exactly. Bombing in-class tests or quizzes where AI isn't an option. Maybe they seem less willing to tackle hard problems on their own. Their attention span for difficult stuff gets shorter. Or they get visibly frustrated when they have to rely on their own brain, without that instant AI fix. The long-term risk. A whole generation that might always sidestep that initial friction, that struggle, and that could stunt their ability for deep thought, for sustained intellectual effort.
Wow, that painkiller idea really resonates, that gradual slide from help to addiction. And tied right into that is the worry about creativity, original thought. If everyone's asking AI for ideas, could things just start looking the same? Could we lose that unique personal spark in student work? We even heard a student say, if he uses AI for music ideas, he doesn't get the chance to try and create his own stuff.
Precisely. That's a core concern. If you constantly rely on AI for the initial idea or the content itself, does your own ability to generate original thoughts just diminish? Can you still brainstorm unique solutions, develop truly distinct viewpoints? AI learns from massive data sets of existing stuff, right? So its outputs, while maybe competent, might naturally lean towards the average, the predictable. So yes, you could absolutely see a homogenization of ideas, essays starting to sound alike, art projects looking similar, maybe even problem-solving approaches becoming uniform. For that music student, the struggle to find a unique melody, that surprising chord change that's part of being creative, it's where their voice comes out. If AI gives you the ideas, you skip that vital struggle, and maybe you skip finding your own unique spark. It begs the question, if AI handles the conceptual work, What's left for human creativity?
And there's also this strong disconnection argument, the idea that AI can kind of separate the student from the actual work. It stops them from learning through the process, the research, the thinking, the finding their own words, their own voice. If the work is just, as one student put it, a conglomeration of the entire internet and not their engagement, then yeah, deep learning just isn't happening.
That's exactly the worry. Learning isn't just downloading facts. It's about the mental processes you go through while engaging with information. It's the critical thinking when you decide which sources are good, the analysis when you understand different views, the creativity when you rephrase complex stuff in your own words, the hard work of pulling different pieces together into your coherent argument. If AI does all that, this student becomes just a receiver of the output, not an active participant in making it. So they don't learn through the process. They don't develop their own voice. They don't internalize the knowledge in a way that really sticks or changes how they think. It's like watching a cooking show versus actually cooking the meal yourself. You see the result, but you haven't learned the skill.
Right. And we heard real examples of this playing out. Students getting good grades on AI-helped homework, but then doing poorly on tests or quizzes without AI. It just highlights this huge gap between the grade and actual understanding. It really suggests AI, in those cases, can create this false sense of achievement. It hides that the student hasn't really learned the material. You get the grade, but not the knowledge.
Those stories are so telling, aren't they? Imagine getting an A on a history paper about World War I because AI structured it perfectly, pulled in all the right details. But then in class, the teacher asks us a specific question about a key person or the turning point in blank stare. Or acing a take-home math assignment with AI help, then completely failing an unassisted pop quiz on the same concepts. It creates this huge disconnect. Perceived success versus actual competence. It means the grading system is being gained, yeah, but more importantly, the student is missing out on genuine learning. They're passing, but not learning. That's a really dangerous outcome long-term. It makes you ask, what are grades even measuring anymore, if not real understanding?
And this takes us into maybe the deepest concerns we heard. The stakes for student development, way beyond just the classroom. We're talking about foundational learning, long-term impact on their thinking. One student used this really provocative phrase, suggesting too much AI could lead to regressing intelligence. That's a stark warning. What could that even mean for their overall intellectual abilities down the line?
Regressing intelligence. Yeah, that phrase stops you in your tracks. It speaks to a really deep fear.
Yeah.
The idea is if students constantly outsource the mental work of learning, memorizing, problem solving, creating to AI, then maybe the brain pathways needed for that work just weaken. Or maybe they don't develop fully in the first place. Our brains are like muscles, right? They get stronger with challenge, with use. If a tool always does the intellectual heavy lifting for you, what happens to your own built-in capacity for that effort? It's the cognitive version of use it or lose it, but potentially on a huge generational scale. It raises this really chilling question about, well, the future direction of human intelligence if we become too reliant on AI.
And that links straight to worries about work ethic, in the real world. If students get used to these shortcuts now, how are they going to handle jobs where they need independent effort, critical thinking, real problem solving?
That's a huge long-term worry. Think about professional life, business, science, arts, whatever. It demands self-starters, initiative, the ability to tackle complex, messy problems where there's no easy answer. If you build a habit early on of always looking for the easiest way out, of outsourcing the thinking, how do you adapt later when AI isn't available? Or when the problem needs a truly new, original human insight? The feeling is clear. Taking shortcuts now could really hurt their future self-sufficiency, their ability to adapt, to push through challenges, their resilience, ultimately their ability to make a real contribution in their career or just in life. It's about shaping their whole approach to tackling problems.
And the point about plagiarism kept coming up. This strong view that using AI for schoolwork is basically plagiarism because the output isn't the student's own thought. It's not from them. It's something produced in seconds or that conglomeration of the entire internet. That's a pretty significant ethical line the students themselves are drawing.
Yes, that comparison to plagiarism feels very real to many of them. And their argument makes sense, doesn't it? If the core idea, the structure, maybe even the exact wording comes from an AI, then it's not really the student's work. It's derived from, that conglomeration. Processed and presented as if it were original. That hits right at academic integrity. What does original thought even mean now? They see it as dishonest, not just to the school or the teacher, but dishonest to themselves, to their own learning. Whose voice is really being represented?
All of which builds towards this pretty stark warning that really stuck with me. The don't know anything scenario, The idea that if students rely too heavily on AI just to get grades without actually learning the stuff, they'll be completely lost and not know anything when they finally face situations where AI isn't there to help. Can you paint a picture of what that might actually look like?
Imagine walking into a crucial job interview. The interviewer asks you to brainstorm a solution on the spot to a new problem,
Yeah.
or ask for your unique take on a complex issue. No AI to prompt. Or imagine starting a challenging college course or facing an unassisted final exam and suddenly realizing you just don't have the foundational knowledge, the analytical skills, the basic facts, because you always let the AI do the thinking part. The don't know anything scenario is this chilling vision of a future where a generation might have passed all the tests, but find their whole intellectual foundation is just sand. It's a false sense of competence that shatters the moment the crutch is kicked away. It's about real-world ability or the lack of it when the AI safety net disappears.
Okay, and this is where the conversation gets even more serious. Moving into adolescent brain development, broader societal effects. We heard this really urgent warning from a high school English teacher. It adds this critical dimension that maybe gets overlooked sometimes.
Yeah, this teacher voiced a really profound concern based on what they're seeing right there in the classroom. They noted and this was their word, shocking, decrease in thinking ability among ninth graders after just 1 year of widespread AI availability. Shocking. That word really jumps out. It shows how serious their observation is. They're seeing students struggle with things that previous groups handled more easily, tasks needing focus, logic, independent problem solving. This quick, visible decline led them to call almost desperately for neuroscientists to study this now. They want to know exactly what is happening inside these young, developing brains.
And that's the absolute core of it, isn't it? The focus is on the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
During adolescence, for listeners, that part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, it's like the CEO. The command center, it handles all the crucial stuff. Critical thinking, complex problem solving, making decisions, controlling impulses. It's what makes us, well, sophisticated thinkers. So the teacher's fundamental question is, if AI is doing the thinking for students during this key development phase, is it actually getting in the way, hindering that vital process? Are we accidentally stunting the very mental abilities we want kids to develop?
That's exactly. Adolescence, puberty into the mid-20s, it's a time of massive brain change, neuroplasticity. The prefrontal cortex is rapidly building connections, getting more efficient. It's literally wiring itself for abstract thought, planning ahead, making nuanced judgments. So if during that critical window, a tool constantly does the mental heavy lifting that should be building those connections, then the worry is, yeah, maybe those pathways don't develop as strongly. Maybe certain cognitive muscles just don't get the workout they need to grow robust. The teacher fears we might be inadvertently stunting the growth of the very things that define human intelligence. That let us navigate a complex world. It's not just about what they learn, it's about how their brains are physically changing to be able to learn.
And to really hammer this home, the teacher used this powerful, pretty unsettling comparison to the movie WALL-E. Where humans have become totally dependent on tech, intellectually lazy, physically inert, the teacher asks. What happens when a brain that's ripe for development, right at that crucial stage for wiring critical thought, is getting hit simultaneously with fragments from social media, being trained for instant gratification by TikTok, maybe seeing misinformation, and then you hand it a tool that promises to do all the hard thinking for it? This isn't just about an essay grade anymore, is it? It forces us to think about a potential shift in how humans think, period. Are we, as a society, accidentally creating an environment where deep, focused, independent thought becomes harder, rarer? It's a huge question, with long-term societal consequences way beyond schools.
That WALL-E comparison, it's not just a movie reference, it's a serious warning about a future where outsourcing our thinking leads to a kind of collective mental decline. And the teacher's point isn't just about AI in isolation. It's a combination. AI landing on top of all these other digital trends. What happens when a young mind that should be developing complex problem-solving skills, critical analysis, is instead constantly fed superficial stuff, rapid-fire content that kills attention spans, and then given an easy button for any mental challenge? The fear is, yeah, this combination creates an environment that's actually hostile to developing higher-order thinking. And this isn't just about individual students succeeding or failing. It's about the intellectual health, the resilience of society as a whole. What happens to innovation, to democracy, to empathy, nuanced understanding? If the very bedrock of independent thought starts to erode, it really does broaden the discussion to societal well-being, the future of human intelligence itself.
Okay, so given all these massive benefits and these equally massive concerns, and the fact that AI isn't going away, how are schools, how are educators actually handling this? What's happening on the ground? What are the immediate struggles? Well, one thing that came up again and again was just a lack of clear rules. Some students said their schools basically have no specific policies yet about AI misuse, leaving this big vacuum.
And that policy vacuum, it creates chaos,
Yeah.
inconsistency, confusion. When there are no clear guidelines, students are just like guessing, trying to figure out how to use it or misuse it. It can lead to this weird environment where some students push boundaries, others are genuinely unsure what's okay, and teachers end up making decisions on the fly, which means rules get applied unevenly, classroom to classroom, maybe even student to student. Without clear, consistent policies, schools kind of accidentally encourage this ethical gray zone. It makes it really hard to maintain academic integrity fairly. It's a huge challenge, trying to set new norms while the tech is changing so incredibly fast.
Creates inconsistency, yeah. And there was that interesting point about fairness, or maybe irony. Teachers using AI maybe for grading, summarizing texts while telling students they can't use it. From a student's viewpoint, that feels inconsistent, maybe unfair. If it's useful for the teacher, why is it totally forbidden for me?
It's a really valid point they raise. And it shows why we need a coherent, transparent approach. If teachers are using AI to be more efficient, summarizing articles, maybe even helping with grading feedback, though not replacing their judgment entirely, then just banning it completely for students feels, well, contradictory. It can definitely breed resentment, a feeling like the adults have this powerful tool but won't let the kids use it, even for legitimate learning. That perceived double standard really highlights how urgently schools need comprehensive policies that admit AI is useful for everyone, but clearly define what's appropriate and what's not, based on the learning goals. It's about building trust, being fair.
Exactly. And that leads us away from the problems towards, okay, what are the solutions, the paths forward? A key suggestion straight from the students was for teachers to actively teach how to use AI responsibly. That feels like a big shift, right? From banning to guiding. How might that actually work in class?
Such a crucial proactive idea. It accepts AI is here to stay. So instead of trying to, pretend it doesn't exist, let's teach students how to use it well, ethically, effectively. This could mean dedicated lessons on AI literacy. What is it? How does it work? What can it do? What can't it do? Its biases. It could mean practical exercises, give students scenarios. How would you use AI for this task without cheating? Make them justify their approach, like explicitly teach them. Use it for brainstorming, yes. Outlining, maybe. Grammar check, sure. But generating the whole assignment, absolutely not. It shifts the focus from just saying no to empowering them with judgment. The critical thinking needed to handle this powerful tool wisely, it fosters responsible digital citizenship.
And transparency seems absolutely vital here. That example of the history teacher, John Gold. He doesn't just use AI, he's open about it. He shows students appropriate ways to use it, like turning notes into a study guide. He explicitly contrasts that with writing a whole essay. How does that kind of modeling help students see AI as a tool whose impact depends on how you use it?
John Gold's approach is fantastic. Being transparent demystifies the tool. It sets a clear example. He can literally show them, look, I used AI to summarize this long article, saved me time, but I still had to read the original, understand it, make sure the summary was accurate for our lesson. Or I used AI to brainstorm some lesson ideas, but then I curated them, I adapted them for you guys.
Right.
That modeling shows AI is an assistant, a powerful one, but not a replacement for your own brain, your own effort. It helps them really grasp the difference between using AI to enhance work versus using it to avoid work. It builds trust. It makes the fuzzy idea of responsible use concrete and understandable.
And that connects to the idea of designing assignments differently. Balanced curriculum design, one student suggested a mix. Some work done in class, some at home. Maybe allow AI for help at home, like study guides, flashcards. But enforce strictly that the answers, the writing, must be the student's own words. Minimal AI help. Trying to strike that balance.
It's about finding that sweet spot, isn't it? That mixed approach sounds very sensible. For example, maybe in-class assignments are designed to be AI-proof. They require spontaneous thinking, showing what you know on the spot, maybe a personal reflection AI can't generate. Then homework could explicitly allow AI for certain support tasks, generating practice questions, summarizing readings, maybe structuring an outline. But and this is the key, with crystal clear rules that the final product, the actual answers, the essay, must be undeniably the student's own work, reflecting their understanding, their voice. Now, that requires teachers to be really creative in how they design assignments and to communicate the boundaries very clearly, maybe even have students explain how they used AI. It's about harnessing the good parts of AI while making sure the core learning, the independent thinking, still happens.
This kind of nuanced approach then leads to the bigger idea. Maybe schools should actually invest more in AI, acknowledge it's useful, and figure out how to incorporate it smartly into the curriculum for everyone's benefit, students and teachers.
It's a pragmatic view, right? Instead of fighting the tide, maybe strategically embrace AI as a resource. This could mean investing in specific AI tools designed for education, providing really good training for teachers and students. Actively weaving AI literacy into courses across different subjects. Imagine, like courses on how to write good prompts, using AI tools in science for data analysis, or in creative writing just for brainstorming exercises. By integrating AI thoughtfully, schools could better prepare students for the future workplace, improve teaching methods, maybe make learning more dynamic, more personalized. It's about being strategic, proactive, not just reacting to this massive tech shift.
So ultimately, it all circles back to that core principle we heard. It's not the tool, it's how you use it. AI itself isn't good or bad. Its impact is all about the choices people make. The consensus seemed really clear. It should support learning, deepen understanding, help people grow. It should not be used to just avoid the work of learning or bypass developing your own abilities.
That sums it up perfectly, doesn't it? AI is like a mirror. It reflects our intentions back at us. It has this incredible potential to make knowledge more accessible, personalize learning, free up our minds for more creative, critical work.
Yeah.
But it also carries this huge risk, fostering dependency, weakening core skills, maybe even reshaping how we think in ways that are unsettling. The difference lies in our choices, our intent. Is the student using AI to learn more or to do less? Is it boosting their intelligence or just outsourcing their thinking? The challenge for all of us, educators, students, parents, society, is to steer its use towards real intellectual growth, to make sure this amazing tool becomes a springboard for human potential, not just a comfortable armchair that stops us from thinking.
Wow. This deep dive really has shown the complexity, the contradictions around AI in schools. We've heard about its huge potential learning tool, personal assistant, key to future skills, but we've also faced these really deep concerns about independent thought, that regression of intelligence idea, even brain development, the very nature of learning.
Yeah, it's definitely not a settled issue, not by a long shot. It's a conversation that's happening right now, evolving as the tech evolves, society trying to adapt. What really stands out, though, is how much thought these students, this teacher, are putting into it, grappling with these huge questions right there. In the thick of it, their perspectives are just invaluable.
It really is a powerful moment to reflect, isn't it? As AI gets woven deeper into everything we do, not just school. What skills, what abilities do we as people, as a society, need to really prioritize, to actively cultivate? How do we make sure that human intelligence, human creativity don't just survive alongside AI, but actually get richer because of it, instead of being overshadowed or diminished? It's a question that needs our ongoing attention, our critical thinking, and maybe a fresh appreciation for the beautiful, sometimes difficult struggle of really learning something for ourselves.